The Lemonade Car Show is sponsored by OMVIC, Ontario's vehicle sales regulator. Welcome to the Lemonade Car Show, brought to you by OMVIC and Crown. I'm your host, Lorraine Sommerfeld. I'm joined today by Emily Chung, new blood, and Georgina, the president of the APA. AutoNiche, cool. We're really glad to have you here.
Thank
Welcome.
you.
George, we're gonna talk about a lot of things, but Emily is a mechanic and has her own business going. What would you like to bring up about the imperativeness, there's a new word, when you're taking care of cars, when they should be inspected? We're going to move into your specialty in a moment.
A diagnosis. That's one of the hardest parts of a good repair, or in any other complex service, be it a doctor or work on your plumbing. It's to actually spend the time and the money to find a source of your problem or know what you're buying. We're not a fan of free inspections at the APA.
Okay, Emily, let me ask you this. The most hated phrase anyone can hear when they take their car in is, we can't duplicate the problem.
Yeah, yeah.
That is the biggest source of aggravation and frustration for consumers. What do you do from your side of it? I know you're trying to diagnose it. You're not trying to make us come back 15 times.
Right.
But what do we do?
And it's kind of like that too. Like, I mean, I almost feel like when you're sick, you go to the doctor. The second you go into the doctor, you know, you don't have the symptom anymore, right? And you're all good. So it's almost like the cars kind of maybe know. But we do really try to get a lot of detail out of our clients. So, you know, we ask them, okay, what kind of noise is it? What does it sound like? Is it hollow? Is it clunking? Is it scraping? Like, there's so many descriptors that we could get out of a noise symptom. And then also, when is it happening? Is it happening first when it's cold, you know, right before you go out for your long drive? And so we try to duplicate the symptom as much as possible. If it's a symptom where, you know, you're only hearing it first thing in the morning, well, we might ask to, you know what, can you leave the car overnight for us, just so we can duplicate it that way. So yeah, noises aren't always easy to track, especially if they don't happen for us at the time of the road test.
Lorraine, if you listen carefully, we deconstruct what you just said. There's about 10 questions in that answer.
I know.
There's very few service people that would go that far. And that's getting back to what I said before. Diagnosis is at least 50% of the work.
I encourage people to make noises. If it's going,
or
just tell them.
If you can record it, like the message that's come up on your screen, use your phone or a noise, record it, you'll be helping as well.
Yeah.
Is it true, and I've had this happen where I think it's coming from the back left, but it's actually the front right. Like it's, look at me pointing to my right saying left. Okay. But a lot of times it's your car's a ventriloquist and you're not always knowing where it's coming from.
Yeah, sound definitely reverberates. The other thing too is, you know, we're drivers, so we're always sitting on the left front side. And so, you know, if the noise is trickier to find, then what you might find is sometimes if you're sitting on the right front side, or, you know, passenger side or the right rear side, you might hear it differently than if you're always driving.
That's super smart.
You know, usually,
I never thought about that.
Yeah, so usually when clients report to us their noise symptoms, we ask them, okay, are you always sitting in the driver's seat? Like, because it might sound totally different. So in our shop, quite often we'll bring two guys out to road test just to see where we can hear it, right? Because
cost you money.
Well, I mean, we want to get the noise and diagnosis right, though.
Might save money in the long run.
Exactly.
Well, customers' money.
Yeah,
really.
Absolutely. You mentioned something about free inspections. We see a lot of things for free anywhere you go, or free inspection of something. If I go to an oil, lube, and filter, and they say free transmission inspection or something, what do they know about it? They're going to find something because that's where they make money. Are more of these misleading, or are they genuine? I mean, you've got a look on your face that tells me you don't like any of them, but is there any time when it's to your advantage to say, sure, check that out for me?
Oh, there may well be that it's a good business to offer to check something for little, but the problem with auto repair is the public has a bad habit. This is a very highly skilled service that I think we actually underpay for. As a consequence, businesses have phony lead-in prices, 69. How come it ends in a 9? Tell me something. Why does this complex service always end in a 9?
Psychologists will answer that. It's if they see 7, they go, no, it's too high. $69.99 is not 7.
Right, but that wasn't the engineer that designed the part, and the people that are servicing it, their cost of doing business doesn't always end in a 9.
Well, so marketing's over there.
Correct. So that leads to distortions in repair. And there's very little oversight of car repairs in Canada, almost none, from an integrity standpoint. And so the honest shops that really should be charging more are not being recognized for it. And so that's where word of mouth comes in, and just the practices inside the shop. as a customer, you should be prepared to pay for work that is done.
I think it's almost like car sellers and people buying, there's this huge distrust right out of the gate. And when we come back the next time, I'm going to ask you to go into that, because it's true, people are like so leery that they go too far, being careful and cautious. And you have to build up a relationship with a mechanic and trust them, or else you won't move out of the box. Same with car sellers. We'll be back with more Lemonade Car Show right after this break. The Lemonade Car Show is sponsored by OMVIC, Ontario's vehicle sales regulator. The Lemonade Car Show is sponsored by OMVIC, Ontario's vehicle sales regulator. Welcome back to the Lemonade Car Show, brought to you by OMVIC and Crown. I'm with Emily Chung, and we're joined by Chris Muir, our regular mechanic, but there's two now. We were talking about diagnosing before we went to break. Yeah. You've got a new cool way that you're working with the public and with the cars and technicians. You want to describe it for us a little bit?
Yeah, so actually all of our inspections are done digitally now. So there's a lot of shops that still, and we used to do it on paper, but now we use iPads, and we use technology to our advantage. We do the vehicle inspections, we take pictures, videos, it gets texted or emailed out to our clients, and that way they can see, so many times we say, oh, your ball joint's worn. Well, to a lot of clients, they don't necessarily understand what a ball joint does or what it looks like, even if it's worn. So we send that out to them, and it's a great way for us to communicate with our clients, and really it's just presenting the information for them, right? It's still at the end of the day their choice if they want to repair it. However, now we can show them, hey, this is what's happening. And it's a benefit for us as a shop too, liability-wise, right? That we have the evidence that, hey, we did speak about this, and if in case anything happens, that we have that, in our pocket as well. So it's both ways. It's beneficial for the client, and it's also beneficial for us as a shop.
Chris, I think we talk about transparency in the industry, and there's not a lot of it. And I think consumers feel almost every step of the way, when they buy a car, when they get a car repaired, when they're reading the advertising for the car, when they read headlines about cars, I think they're almost expecting to be ripped off.
Yeah.
And it's about time to change it. And I think things like this are going to do it. Shows like this will do it because they're hearing the truth. You're teaching now.
I am.
You're a professor at Centennial.
I am.
Professor Muir. I still can't wrap my head around that. Okay.
There's days I struggle with myself.
Are you seeing the technology? I know it's moving quickly.
Yeah.
The kids you're teaching, they're going to be working this way, aren't they?
They are, absolutely they are. I mean, a lot of my own course material I'm moving to and exclusively online. I don't want your piece of paper. I don't want it covered in grease and smattered with anything. I want you to be able to be proficient with a computer, take a picture of something, present it back to me in a way that you would relay it to a consumer. So this is the future. I mean, it's the right direction to go, certainly. And it's a shop tour, if you will, or showing the customer what's wrong with their car for a digital age. It's no different than me having my customer in the waiting room and bringing them back and showing them the car. Instead, they can be in their house having coffee or in their office and not have to make that trip to see how bad it really is or how good it really is.
So information is power for everybody.
Yeah.
We have a lot of questions that we've been just waiting for you guys. Two mechanics. I love this. Let's go to the phones.
My car, power steering, engine light, all my lights keep coming on anytime I drive a long distance. Could you please help me? I'm desperate. Thank you.
Okay, that makes me sad right out of the gate. Power steering's the first thing I'm worried about in that one. But as a consumer, I understand she's desperate, because if you don't know and you don't know where to go, where does she start?
So in order to even help her to start to diagnose it, we have to know what it is. We don't know how the power steering's operated. Is it electric power steering? Is she saying it's failing? Is it making noise? Is it just a light on the dashboard? What other lights are coming on? Obviously check engine light, but we don't know all of the details of this concern.
Am I overblowing it to say stop driving it and get it in somewhere now in case?
Well, I think So this is the thing, that typically the check engine light comes on when your emissions level are like 1.5 times the allowable limit, right? It is strictly an emissions related warning light. So if the check engine light comes on and it stays on, then you're still okay to drive to the nearest facility, let's say. However, if that light starts flashing, then it's okay, do not drive this car anymore. And a lot of manufacturers now, once the check engine light comes on, they'll actually flag, a bunch of other lights for you that'll automatically come on too. They want to disable, some of the systems automatically. So with respect to her question, it's like you said, there's just a lot of information that's not there. But if that check engine light is on, staying on, steady, then she should be okay to drive to the next facility. Definitely get it checked out. If it's flashing, then it's a for sure don't drive this car.
Don't drive this
And
car.
if it's a red light surprise, like all the lights come on and there's a bunch of red ones,
Stop.
that's a stop thing.
Yeah.
Stop and tow. Okay.
Yeah.
We have time for another call.
Hi, my name is Wayne from Port Colborne, Ontario. Just wondering why certain manufacturers have different lengths of maintenance intervals. For example, I had a Toyota RAV4. Oil change and filter was at 8,000 kilometers and just purchased a new Hyundai Kona. Oil changers are 6,000 kilometers, both using synthetic oils. Why the difference in maintenance other than it's just another cash grab from the dealership? Thank you very much.
Cash grab or good for the car?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll go first. So oil intervals are set based on pollutants from the engine, tolerances, oil viscosity. They might both be synthetic oils. One might be 0.20 where the other one's 10.30. They're expected to run in differing conditions. I would go based on what the engine manufacturer says, not necessarily the dealership, but what's actually printed in your owner's manual, and I would follow the severe maintenance recommendation for the engine. Don't go based on the oil, go based on the engine manufacturer.
You see why this is confusing for consumers, though, because their dealership says one thing, the manual says another thing. Some wait for the line, some look at the sticker. So it's pretty common to be confused.
Yeah.
You know.
And I think the important thing to remember too is that the maintenance intervals are set by the manufacturer, so to speak, right? And they have highly calculated ways to figure out, okay, what is the length of time that they can stretch these intervals. I mean, it's to their benefit that they can make it as long as possible. It's a very appealing thing to be able to sell a vehicle that has low requirements, like a low maintenance car, so to speak. However, for the purposes of the engine, it may not be the best thing. And to your point, yeah, there's multiple. I mean, they could be two different vehicles. However, they may have different requirements just in the engine itself, right?
So it could be the opposite of a cash grab. It's taking
totally
care of the vehicle.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll be back after this break with more Lemonade Car Show. The Lemonade Car Show is sponsored by OMVIC, Ontario's vehicle sales regulator. The Lemonade Car Show is sponsored by OMVIC, Ontario's vehicle sales regulator. Welcome back to the Lemonade Car Show, brought to you by OMVIC and Crown. I'm your host, Lorraine Sommerfeld. I'm here with Emily Chung and Chris Muir. It's like Battle of the Mechanics. I like this. This is really
I
cool.
wouldn't say it's battle. It's more like a fairly united front. In front.
Well, Chris, I must tell you, she was really good. Anyway, we have some questions queued up. Let's go to the phones.
Hi, Joe from Brampton. Got a 2018 CRV. I need to know about that gas and oil fix. Plus, how do I know it's my car is not properly aligned, wheel alignment? Thank you.
Okay, two questions. Let's break this apart. Honda, we were actually just talking to the APA. George was here talking to us about this recent.
Yeah, apparently the CRVs are having fueling issues. They're putting a bit too much in and it's getting into the oiling system of the vehicle. It's a direct injection vehicle, and George was saying that the APA had contacted Honda in June, and apparently there's a TSB out for it, or a technical service bulletin to repair the concern. We're still waiting on feedback as far as how well the repair works, but it's a known issue with these cars at this
So they
point.
do know. So anyone with a 17 or 18 CRV, you can go on the APA website to find out the actual wording of the technical service bulletin, and then go from there with your dealer. Now, alignment. He's wondering if you know when your alignment's out. I say, yeah. but
Yeah, you can tell if your alignment's out when it's very obvious that it's out. So, for example, when you're driving straight, if the steering wheel's off center, or if you're just drifting, to one side of the road or the other, that's a very obvious way. However, we usually say for maintenance reasons, you might want to do an alignment once a year, because alignment angles are like, point whatever of a degree. There's no way by eye. It's just like saying to me, is that tire at 35 psi? Well, by eye, I can't tell, right? We got to measure it. So alignments are the same thing, where the degree angles are so slight that you may not know if it's out. And so we do recommend as a maintenance once a year to do an alignment. You can also see alignment wear through tires as well when you go change tires. If you've got, tire wear, then it's also indicative of a misaligned car.
so again, something not to put off because it will go down the chain and
Yes.
cause other problems
Yes.
that will end up
Absolutely.
costing you more. Okay, let's take another call.
I have a 205 Ford Terrace. I'd like to know why I can't stop the fan valve from squeaking all the time. I've used penetrating oil, but it's not working. Could you please tell me? Thank you.
Okay. Not such a great idea. Who wants to take this?
Well,
First, what does penetrating oil do to a fan valve?
so penetrating oil is a penetrant, and it will actually penetrate the rubber or the synthetics that the belt is made from and start to break the belt down. The idea behind what he's doing is you make it a little bit tacky or a little bit gluey, and it's supposed to hold on. However, with a serpentine belt, no dressing is recommended for the belt. If he's got a squeaking belt, he's got another problem there, probably a weak tensioner or a stretched belt.
Yeah. That or an idler might be gone, or even the belt. Maybe the belt was worn. We don't know when the last time he replaced that belt.
Okay. I don't really know what else to say after that one.
No.
Okay,
It's,
we'll be right back after this break, taking more of your questions. Lemonade Car Show. The Lemonade Car Show is sponsored by OMVIC, Ontario's vehicle sales regulator. The Lemonade Car Show is sponsored by OMVIC, Ontario's vehicle sales regulator. Welcome back to the Lemonade Car Show, brought to you by OMVIC and Crown. I'm here with Emily Chung and Chris Muir, and we're with you viewers. Let's take our next phone call.
I'm calling because I have a brand new Mazda CX-5 of 2018, and there's several noises that bother me about it. The engine always has a whine that's really loud when it's colder. There's this hollow sound that's more than just road noise that's constantly there. And my brakes the car seems to squeak or whatever as I go from drive to reverse when my foot's on the brake. All right, hoping you can provide some insight at how major this is and how widespread it is. Bye-bye.
Lots of stuff going on here. He's got a new vehicle, and he's experiencing nasty problems, and I would not like that either in a new vehicle. What do you tell people, Emily, when they're presented with this?
Well, I mean, the noises that he's describing doesn't sound life-threatening, like what he's, asking. I think if anything, they're noise annoyances. In terms of the brakes, I guess I'd be curious to know, like he said, he's hearing the squeaking from drive to reverse.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's just, maybe when he purchased the car, the vehicle was sitting for quite a bit of time and the brakes haven't had a time to heat up. Did you have any thoughts on the other ones?
A
There's a
whining
whole-
engine? when it's
The whining
cold?
engine, I can't remember if CX-5 is turbo or not. I know the 9 is, but he may have a little bit of a turbo drone if it is a turbocharged engine. Anything like that, it's best to drive a like model. So go visit a different dealership and kind of go in under the guise of, oh, I'm thinking about buying a CX-5 and drive a similar model and see if it makes the same noises. That's something as a technician we would normally do at a dealer level is this what we call commercially acceptable or not?
Okay, so a one-off or a model-wide
Yes.
problem
Right.
on something. So if he goes to his dealer, open up the paperwork, though, list all this stuff, make them start now that you've told them these things and try and get better answers from them. You can also call Mazda Direct. They'll have a customer care line that you can register another file with them to open this in case it turns out to be something bigger down the line. You do want that paper trail behind it. But it's really annoying when you buy a new car, and I mean, I like that Emily says they're small, like it's annoyances versus dangerous,
Right.
which is a good thing. But go ask the dealer and check this. And I like the idea of finding similar vehicle and doing your own little Sherlock Holmes thing here and going in and finding it.
certainly.
Okay, I hope that helps. But we'll take the next call.
I have a question about my 2015 Malibu, which shuts off while driving. So just needed to know if there's any other issues with that. Thank you kindly.
I think that's a pretty big issue all by itself, but it's still under warranty. I'm going to start from my angle, which is how much is this going to cost me, which is always that. But I know you have another take on it, Emily.
I mean, there's a lot of information that's missing out of that one. So one thing I would ask is, are there any other lights coming on when it just shuts off? If the charging light is on, is the check engine light on? Is it shutting off after a long drive? Is it shutting off, at idle? When she's coming to a stop, does it shut off there, or it literally just shuts off while she's driving? So there's a lot of different pieces of information that would be helpful, even if she's going to explain it back to, the dealership, or if she's taking it to an independent shop. They would probably want to know these kinds of, details.
See, I find an engine cutting out probably the most terrifying thing that can happen to someone who's driving, especially at speed. But even if it stops in a parking lot and you're trying to go and someone's behind you and they don't know you're in trouble. So there's,
It's stressful.
we picture highway in that speed bus or whatever, but it's not always that. It can be smaller but still be dangerous.
Yeah.
Chris, why would it cut out? What are some common reasons? I know a lot
There could be any number of things. It could be a bad power connection, a bad ground connection. It could be sensor overheats and actually pulls down the data line, so all the computers stop talking to one another. It could be a coil pack is fried. It could be any number of things. I mean,
should she
pick
be
your
checking
favorite.
for a service bulletin on this? Should she be?
What she should be doing is taking it to someone who can read the car. 'Cause, something as new as 2015 has a lot of data logging. And although the check engine light may not be on because it didn't affect the emission systems, it just shut down, it may have still logged a code for over voltage, under voltage, lost signal from. So it really needs to be looked at.
Okay, and if I were her, I would go now. I wouldn't be driving around again,
No.
but this is just me because I'm playing chicken. Okay,
No.
so take it to a dealer and get it checked and find out.
Or
what's
service
going
shop.
on.
Service
Or a
shop.
service shop. Let's take another call.
I'm 70 years old. And tell these nitwits on the Lemonade Car Show, stick to winter tires up. I've never bought a pair in my life, ever. Now I see for the last year, that's all they're advertising about. Buy winter tires, not.
Oh, someone's cranky, and I guess I got a tire to pull out of my butt. But anyway. Yeah, viewers, Joe's wrong. I'm sorry. And why you would ever try and talk anyone else out of buying them is beyond me. Like, I'd rather everyone had them on, even if I didn't.
Well, and just the reasoning that, because he's never bought them, therefore they're not required. I mean, there's a lot of things I've never done that, probably should be done. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the advantage is there's test after test after test after example after
You
example.
stop sooner.
You can steer, you can stop, you can go. If he doesn't want them, see in the ditch.
Well, that's the thing. Well, and the thing is, sometimes people like Joe, they have the choice of going out or not. If the weather's bad, a lot of people are commuting, they don't have that option. So you know what? Instead of rousing somebody else for making that decision to keep their family safe and things like that, understand some people don't have choices, and this is the safest choice. And
Yeah, and I think the other thing too we have to remember is that tire technology has improved significantly. So winter tire, even 10 years ago is totally different than the technology that they have now. Like, it's improved a lot. So there's a noticeable difference. Like, you get what you pay for with winter tires too.
And Joe apparently isn't going to get anything from them, but that's okay. We
That's
like
all right.
all our viewers. That's all the time we have for the Lemonade Car Show. I'm Lorraine Sommerfeld. I'd like to thank the sponsors, OnVic Crown, Hotspot Auto Parts, and Sound Insurance, my guests, Emily Chung and Chris Muir, and you viewers, even Joe.